The abandoned airport was supposed to be empty, but Rex knew better. For 3 years, the former security dog had been living in the shadows of Terminal C, surviving on scraps and memories. But when he saw the man in the maintenance uniform planting something inside the air vent, every instinct from his training screamed danger. What Rex discovered that day would save the life of the most powerful person in the world. Metropolitan International Airport had been closed for 3 years, its once bustling terminals now standing as monuments to economic decline and political failures. The massive complex stretched across nearly 4 square miles of concrete and steel, its empty corridors echoing with the ghosts of millions of travelers who had once passed through its gates. But the airport wasn't entirely abandoned. Deep within Terminal C, in the forgotten security offices that had once been the nerve center of one of the nation's busiest hubs, Rex had made his home. Rex was a German shepherd, though the years of abandonment had taken their toll on his once magnificent appearance. His black and tan coat was now matted and dulled by dust, his frame, leaner than it should have been, sustained by whatever scraps he could find in the vast complex. But his eyes, those intelligent brown eyes that had once been trained to detect the most sophisticated threats, remained sharp and alert. He had been the Transportation Security Administration's most decorated detection dog, trained to identify explosives, drugs, and weapons with an accuracy rate that exceeded 97%. His handler, Agent Maria Santos, had called him a miracle worker, able to detect threats that electronic scanners missed. But when the airport closed due to budget cuts and political maneuvering, Rex had somehow been overlooked in the relocation process. Left behind in the chaos of the shutdown, he had been forced to adapt to a life of solitude in the cavernous terminals. For 3 years, Rex had maintained his routine. Every morning, he would patrol the same routes he had walked as a working dog, his internal clock still programmed to the schedules he had once followed. He knew every inch of Terminal C, every hiding place, every maintenance tunnel, every security checkpoint. The airport might have been abandoned by humans, but to Rex, it was still his territory to protect. His survival had become a testament to both his intelligence and his stubborn loyalty to a duty that no longer officially existed. He had learned to catch rainwater that leaked through damaged roof sections, to hunt the occasional rat or pigeon that had taken up residence in the terminal, and to forage from the food courts that still contained expired but edible supplies. Security cameras that still functioned occasionally captured glimpses of him moving through the shadows, but these sightings were dismissed by the skeleton maintenance crew as urban legends or tricks of light. On this particular Tuesday morning, in October, Rex was following his usual patrol route through the upper level of Terminal C when he noticed something different. The air carried a scent that didn't belong, a mixture of fresh cologne, laundered clothing, and something metallic that made his nose twitch with recognition. Human scent was rare in the abandoned terminal, appearing only when the monthly inspection teams made their perfunctory rounds. But this was different. This scent carried an undertone of nervousness, of sweat, mixed with determination, that Rex's training had taught him to associate with people who were hiding something dangerous. Rex followed the scent trail through the familiar corridors, his paws silent on the dusty tile floors. The trail led him toward Gate C-14, one of the larger gates that had once served international flights. As he approached, he could hear sounds that didn't belong in the empty terminal: the quiet scraping of metal against metal, the soft rustling of fabric, and the barely audible breathing of someone trying very hard to remain undetected. Staying low and using the rows of abandoned check encounters for cover, Rex crept closer to the source of the sounds. What he saw made every nerve in his body go on high alert. A man in a blue maintenance uniform was standing on a stepladder, his hands working inside an air conditioning vent near the ceiling. The uniform looked official, complete with a laminated ID badge, but Rex's nose told him a different story. The man's scent was wrong. It carried traces of gunpowder, plastic explosives, and the particular chemical signature that Rex had been trained to detect as a threat to aviation security. The man was carefully placing something inside the vent, his movements precise and methodical. Even from his hiding place 30 feet away, Rex could see the concentration on the man's face, the way his hands trembled slightly with nervous energy. This wasn't routine maintenance. This was something that triggered every alarm in Rex's highly trained mind. Rex's body tensed as his training took over. His breathing became shallow and controlled, his muscles coiled for action. He had seen this behavior before, in the countless training exercises and the few real-world incidents where his detection abilities had been called upon. This man was planting an explosive device. The implications crashed through Rex's consciousness like a thunderbolt. He remembered fragments of conversations he had overheard from the maintenance crews over the past few weeks. Metropolitan Airport was scheduled to reopen temporarily for a special event, something about a high-profile arrival, security sweeps, and VIP protocols. The pieces of information that had seemed meaningless to a dog suddenly formed a terrifying picture. Rex watched as the man finished his work and carefully replaced the vent cover, using a small cordless drill to secure the screws. The man then climbed down from the ladder, folded it, and began walking quickly toward the service corridors that led to the airport's maintenance tunnels. Rex faced a crucial decision: follow the man and potentially lose track of the explosive device, or stay and try to alert someone to the immediate threat. His training made the choice for him. The primary objective was always to alert his handler to the presence of explosive materials. But Rex faced a problem that his training had never anticipated. He had no handler to alert. Agent Santos was long gone, transferred to another facility. When the airport closed, the TSA, the FBI, the local police, all the human authorities who would normally respond to his detection alerts were nowhere to be found. Rex remained hidden until the man in the maintenance uniform disappeared into the service tunnels. Then he approached the area directly beneath the tampered vent. Even from the ground, his sensitive nose could detect the chemical signatures emanating from the device hidden above. The scent profile matched his training for plastic explosives, specifically the type designed for maximum structural damage in enclosed spaces. For the first time in 3 years, Rex began the alert behavior he had been trained to perform. He sat rigidly beneath the vent, his body straight and still, his nose pointed directly at the source of the threat. This was the passive alert that had made him one of the most reliable detection dogs in TSA history. In the old days, this behavior would have immediately brought Agent Santos running, followed by bomb disposal units and evacuation procedures. But now, Rex sat alone in the empty terminal, maintaining his alert position for over an hour before the reality of his situation finally forced him to move. There was no one to see his alert, no one to understand what he was trying to communicate. The automatic response systems that had once governed his life were meaningless in this abandoned place. Rex began to pace beneath the vent, his agitation growing as the chemical scent from the explosive device seemed to intensify. His pacing turned into circles, then into short barks, sharp, urgent sounds that echoed through the empty terminal like gunshots. He was trying every method of communication he knew, every behavior pattern that had once brought immediate human response. As the hours passed, Rex's barking became more frantic. He could sense something in the air that his human companions had never been able to detect: the temporal signature of an explosive device that was not just planted but activated. The chemical scent was changing, developing the subtle markers that indicated a timing mechanism in operation. Late in the afternoon, Rex heard the distant sound of vehicles approaching the terminal. His ears perked up as he recognized the heavy engines of security vehicles, followed by the distinctive whine of electric maintenance carts. The monthly inspection was early, or perhaps this was related to the special event he had heard mentioned in overheard conversations. Rex ran toward the main entrance of Terminal C, his barks becoming a continuous stream of urgent communication. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, he could see 3 vehicles parked outside: 2 unmarked sedans and a white van with government plates. Men and women in dark suits were unloading equipment cases and speaking into radio devices with the crisp efficiency that Rex recognized as federal law enforcement. One of the agents, a tall woman with graying hair pulled back in a severe bun, noticed the barking coming from inside the terminal. She approached the glass doors, shading her eyes to peer into the dim interior. When she saw Rex, a skeletal German shepherd, frantically throwing himself against the doors, her expression shifted from curiosity to concern. "There's a dog in there," she called to her colleagues. "German shepherd. Looks like he's been there a while." Agent Rebecca Sterling was the lead advance agent for the Secret Service detail responsible for securing Metropolitan Airport for tomorrow's presidential visit. She had been briefed that the facility was completely abandoned, cleared, and secure. The presence of a dog, especially one exhibiting this level of distress, was an immediate red flag. "Could be a stray that wandered in," suggested Agent Martinez, her partner. "The perimeter fence has some weak spots. but Sterling was studying Rex more carefully. His positioning wasn't random, he was deliberately blocking their path into the terminal, running back and forth between the doors and the interior corridor as if trying to lead them somewhere. "This isn't stray behavior," she said slowly. "Look at his movement pattern. He's trying to communicate something." Sterling made a decision that would later be credited with saving dozens of lives. She radioed for the building maintenance supervisor to meet them at Terminal C immediately, and she authorized the opening of the sealed entrance doors. When the doors finally opened, Rex didn't rush outside as they expected. Instead, he ran a few steps into the terminal, stopped, and looked back at the agents with an intensity that was impossible to ignore. When they didn't follow immediately, he returned to them and repeated the behavior. "He wants us to follow him," Sterling said, her voice tight with growing suspicion. "Agent Martinez, call for backup and bomb disposal." "Something's not right here." Rex led the Secret Service agents through Terminal C with purposeful determination, retracing the path he had taken earlier that day. His behavior was unlike anything Sterling had encountered in 15 years of federal law enforcement, but she had learned to trust her instincts, especially when those instincts were reinforced by such obvious intelligence from an unexpected source. When Rex reached Gate C-14, he immediately resumed his alert position beneath the tampered vent. He sat rigidly, his nose pointed upward, his entire body communicating urgent attention to that specific location. Sterling looked up at the vent, noting the freshly disturbed dust around the edges and the slight scratches on the screws that indicated recent removal and replacement. "Agent Martinez, get that stepladder from the maintenance cart and call the bomb squad. Tell them we have a potential device." As Martinez positioned the ladder, Sterling climbed up to examine the vent more closely. What she found inside made her blood run cold. Nestled among the air conditioning ducts was a sophisticated explosive device, complete with a digital timer that showed less than 18 hours remaining. The device was positioned to cause maximum structural damage to the terminal support columns, with enough explosive power to bring down a significant portion of the building. But the timer wasn't the most chilling discovery. Attached to the device was a detailed schedule showing the president's arrival time, the planned route through the terminal, and the exact location where the presidential party would be standing during the formal reopening ceremony. This wasn't just an act of terrorism, it was a precisely planned assassination attempt. Within minutes, Terminal C was swarming with federal agents, bomb disposal experts, and emergency personnel. The device was carefully photographed, documented, and eventually disarmed by the FBI's hazardous devices team. The investigation that followed would reveal a sophisticated conspiracy involving domestic terrorists with connections to international criminal organizations. But as the chaos of the investigation unfolded around him, Rex simply remained in his alert position beneath the vent, maintaining his vigil until Agent Sterling approached him with a gentle hand extended. "You saved the president's life," she said softly, kneeling beside him. "You saved all of us." The investigation into the assassination plot moved with the speed and resources that only a threat to the president's life could command. Within hours, federal agencies had deployed their most advanced forensic capabilities to track down the man in the maintenance uniform. Security footage from surrounding businesses, cell phone data analysis, and chemical residue from the explosive device created a trail that led investigators to a domestic terrorist cell that had been planning the attack for over 2 years. The leader of the cell, a former military explosives expert named David Brennan, had specifically chosen Metropolitan Airport because he believed its abandoned status would provide the perfect cover for his plan. He had obtained legitimate maintenance credentials through a complex identity theft scheme and had been accessing the terminal for weeks, studying the building's structure and planning the optimal placement for maximum casualties. Brennan's plan had been nearly perfect. The device he planted was sophisticated enough to avoid detection by standard security sweeps, positioned to bring down the section of the terminal where the president would be standing during the reopening ceremony. The explosion would have been followed by a coordinated attack on the evacuation routes, designed to maximize the loss of life among the president's security detail and the assembled dignitaries. But Brennan had made one critical miscalculation. He had assumed the abandoned airport was truly empty. He had never accounted for Rex, the forgotten security dog whose 3 years of solitary vigilance had prepared him for exactly this moment. As the investigation progressed, Rex became something of a celebrity within the federal law enforcement. Community. Agent Sterling had taken personal responsibility for his care, ensuring he received medical attention for the malnutrition and minor injuries he had sustained during his years of abandonment. The veterinary examination revealed that despite his harsh living conditions, Rex was in remarkably good health for a dog of his age and circumstances. Dr. Amanda Foster, the veterinarian who examined Rex, was amazed by his condition. This dog has somehow maintained his training discipline and mental acuity despite 3 years of complete isolation, she explained to Agent Sterling. His muscle memory for detection work is still intact, his alert behaviors are textbook perfect, and his intelligence levels are off the charts. He's been essentially conducting his own training exercises this whole time, staying ready for a job that he thought might never come again. The psychological evaluation was equally remarkable. Rex showed no signs of the severe behavioral problems that typically developed in dogs subjected to prolonged isolation. Instead, he demonstrated the focused determination of a working dog who had simply been waiting for his next assignment. 3 days before the president's rescheduled visit to Metropolitan Airport, Rex was officially reinstated as a federal detection dog, assigned to Agent Sterling's Secret Service detail. The ceremony was small but meaningful, attended by the agents whose lives he had saved and the bomb disposal experts who had worked to disarm the device he had discovered. Agent Sterling, now Rex's official handler, had spent countless hours working with him to rebuild the partnership that was essential for effective detection work. But the process proved remarkably smooth. Rex seemed to understand that he was once again part of a team, once again serving the purpose for which he had been trained. It's like he never stopped being a working dog, Sterling explained to her supervisor. He was just waiting for the right moment to prove it. The president's visit to Metropolitan Airport proceeded without incident, though few of the assembled dignitaries and media representatives knew how close they had come to disaster. The president himself, briefed on the details of the assassination plot and Rex's role in preventing it, made a point of personally meeting the dog who had saved his life. This is what dedication looks like, the president said, kneeling beside Rex in a moment that would later become an iconic photograph. 3 years alone, forgotten by the system, but never forgetting his duty. Rex represents the best of American loyalty, service, and an unwavering commitment to protecting others. The formal reopening of Metropolitan Airport was a success, but for Rex, the real victory was simpler. He was working again, part of a team, serving a purpose that gave meaning to his existence. The years of abandonment hadn't broken him, they had only strengthened his resolve and proven the depth of his dedication. Agent Sterling watched Rex during the ceremony, noting how he maintained his professional alertness even during the congratulatory speeches and photo opportunities. This was a dog who understood the importance of his work, who took pride in his abilities, and who had proven that true loyalty transcends circumstances. In the months that followed, Rex became one of the most requested detection dogs in the Secret Service, his reputation for reliability and intelligence spreading throughout the federal law enforcement community. He worked high-profile events, conducted security sweeps at sensitive facilities, and trained new handlers in the art of reading canine detection alerts. But perhaps most importantly, Rex's story became a symbol of hope for other abandoned working animals. His experience led to policy changes in how government agencies handled the closure of facilities with working animals, ensuring that no dog would ever again be forgotten in the bureaucratic shuffle. Agent Sterling often reflected on the incredible chain of events that had led to Rex saving the president's life. If the maintenance schedule had been different, if Rex had been successfully relocated when the airport closed, if the assassination plot had targeted a different location, any number of variables could have changed the outcome. But that's the thing about Rex, she would tell other agents. He was exactly where he needed to be, when he needed to be there. Some dogs are just born to serve, and nothing, not abandonment, not hunger, not 3 years of solitude can change that fundamental nature. Rex had proven that heroism isn't about recognition or reward, it's about being ready to act when the moment demands it, regardless of whether anyone is watching. His 3 years of faithful vigil in an abandoned airport had prepared him for the single most important detection of his career, and he had not failed. Today, Rex continues to serve with Agent Sterling, his legend growing with each successful operation. But for those who know his story, The real inspiration isn't in his dramatic rescue of the president, it's in his quiet dedication during those 3 years when no one knew he was there, when no one cared, when he maintained his watch simply because it was who he was. Rex had taught them all a profound lesson about duty, loyalty, and the power of never giving up. Sometimes the greatest heroes are those who continue to serve even when the world has forgotten them, ready to act when their moment finally comes. And in Terminal C of Metropolitan Airport, now bustling with renewed activity, a small plaque marks the spot where Rex maintained his vigil. It reads simply, "In honor of Rex, loyalty never abandons its post." For those who understand his story, no other words are necessary.